Welcome to another edition of Using AI at Work. This is a unique episode, kind of a best of edition focused on a universal need for any business, using AI to support content creation. Whether it's social content used to establish thought leadership in your industry, blog posts to engage your website visitors, or external communication about things happening in your company, content has a broad application. So in this episode, we've extracted the best insights from our catalog of episodes to help you start using AI to support the growth of your business and brand. Let's get started. Welcome to Using AI at Work. I'm your host, Chris Daigle. Each week, we'll be learning how today's business owners, entrepreneurs, and ambitious professionals are getting more done with smart use of tomorrow's tech. Let's get started. All right, I'm very excited to have Jonathan Green on the podcast today. Jonathan is the host of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, best-selling author, AI expert. He and I had the chance to kind of geek out on a lot of tools the last time we spoke, and it was awesome to connect with somebody who's as tactically familiar with all of the tools and all the moving parts. So we're in for a great treat. So Jonathan, if you don't mind, take a second and just kind of let the audience know a little bit about yourself and your AI interests.
Sure. I've been a full-time entrepreneur since February 2010 when I was fired from what I thought at the time was my dream job. And I was driving home in a blizzard to my new apartment in my new car that I suddenly couldn't afford. I realized how much power or leverage your boss has over you. And I didn't like that feeling. I didn't want to ever feel that way again. I said, I'm never going to have a boss again. I can't do this.
One of the areas that we talked about this before, I launched a podcast. I think, we just released episode 14. You're at episode 300 plus. There is a lot of learning that comes from that many repetitions at something. And that also tells me that you were doing this well before you were AI literate, AI enabled, that you were doing it the old way. And now I would imagine that you've probably found, including ChatGPT, you found some other tools that are supporting the podcast creation, distribution, all that stuff. I have a personal interest in it. I know that there's listeners that are they want to become recognized as an AI subject matter expert in their industry and their domain. And a podcast is a fantastic way to do that. So what's the difference between episode 1 and episode 301 as far as the tools you've been using?
When I started my podcast, it was a solo podcast, not an interview podcast. It was just me. I recorded episodes on my phone with a lavalier microphone. I would walk along the beach and I was doing 5 episodes a week.
Wow.
It was a huge amount of work and I wasn't able to maintain it because at the time when I started out, I used to write on my books by hand. I then ran into some problems with my eyes, so I had to dictate everything. I couldn't use a computer as much, which meant I have a certain amount of time I can spend talking every week and I can't go beyond that. So the podcast got pushed down and it became weekly. Since then, it's transitioned and it was an interview podcast for a while. I was thinking about shutting it down until I had a conversation with someone. I was like, you know what? This isn't the direction of my business anymore. I don't like the people I'm talking to. I'm not excited by that. And I was going to shut it down. He goes, well, what we can do is just rename it and pivot it. So it used to be called the Serve No Master Podcast. And it was ranked really high. It's really high in listen notes. It's one of the top 2.5 or 2% of podcasts in the world. So it had a listenership. It had a history. And I've renamed it around 30 or 40 episodes ago. And now I talk to people that I'm excited by again.
Yeah.
And that's really part of it. There's a lot of mistaken beliefs about podcasts. A lot of people think a podcast is a great way to get rich. It's not. It's a real job. It's a lot of work.
Jonathan, if somebody wanted to start a podcast, as crazy as that may sound, what would be, knowing the tools that we have today, what's the easiest path, the lowest barrier to entry for individuals?
I think that there's 3 pieces to it. The first is the technology for recording your episodes. So I've been using Riverside for a long time. As I told you yesterday, I just discovered I have an account. I have an account with a competitor that I use Descript for editing my episodes. You need Descript in your workflow. It's simply the best AI tool there is. It's the best for video editing. It's the best for background noise removal. It's the best for audio enhancing. It's the best green screen removal tool. They've added all these features. It has the best eye fixing when you look down and it fixes that. They've become this really powerful tool and they don't advertise that they're an AI tool. They have an amazing replacement. So I say the wrong word all the time. And if I say the word chapter, but I mean book, I can just type in the word book and it will fix and it will sound like me. That saves me so much time when I'm editing. I
Yeah.
do that all of the time. Every single video I publish, I do it, fix at least one word, usually 3 to 5. All of those features are amazing. They own Squadcast. So I found out because I have a big account with them. They go, oh, you have a free Squadcast account at the highest tier. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So I'll probably switch to Squadcast because I end up editing it in Descript anyways. And the
Yeah.
process of moving it to Descript is so much faster. So actually, I look at it and go, this will be a faster process for me. It has a feature. The feature that I really look for in recording is one that records locally and then uploads. So when I'm
Yes.
with a guest, if their power goes out, the episode's not lost. That's what I look for. And I have a lot of power outages. So that's actually something I specifically looked for. That's why I started with Riverside. The second thing after that, once you think about that, you want to think about the tools you're using, what type of headphones using, what type of speakers using, what type of microphone. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but be prepared to spend at least $200 on your microphone. That at that price point, you're going to get something really solid. It's going to make a huge difference. Most important thing is to really develop a process. So I was actually working on this yesterday, so I have this on my desk, was writing out what happens after I do an episode, all of the steps to go, I need to, some people call this a macro or process or series of steps or order of operations or system. But I was working on it going, well, what are the order steps? Because there's a bunch of small steps in between. So first, I take the episode. There's a problem I've been having with Riverside, which is that the audio is coming out corrupted. So I have to download the 2 WAV files. So I have to merge those 2 WAV files with the video, render that. That takes time. That creates the first thing. Then I put that into Script. I use the Script's audio enhancer and remove the filler words, the ums, the ahs, the ensos. Those all get removed. I export that. That's the version that goes into video to make the clips. I know that if I do the final edited version, which has music and stuff, those AI tools will pick the music sections because they're the loudest or the highest energy. So if you use Opus, it will, same thing. They all do it. I don't know if the new version of video will do it, but in the past, it always did that. So that's my process. Then I edit. So that's the thing that's going to make clips. Then I add in the intro music, the outro music, and export it 4K. That's the one that's going on YouTube. And then I'll upload to Buzzsprout. Then I have to then do a version that's at 1080 because you're not allowed to stream or put content on LinkedIn above 1080. I live stream the episodes on LinkedIn. That's where my biggest audience is. And you can't, if you have a 4K version, LinkedIn just won't show it because they don't know how to handle a re-render. So you have to be at 1080. So there's a whole bunch of issues with streaming to LinkedIn. It's the worst platform for it. But when you get it right, it really gets a lot of viewers. And I get viewers every single week, new viewers. I get more viewers that are not from my existing audience from those than anything else that I do because the person usually tags themselves. I can tag the person and say, oh, here's the episode you're on. Just doing that means it will show up in their followers' feeds. Most of them reshare it. Most of them do all the other things to generate buzz there because they don't have to do something hard, like post something new. They can just click repost. That process means I have to generate 4 versions of the video. So that's a process. Then I make the clips. I have to put them in one folder. And then I have to have the link to the clips folder. I have to have the link to the Buzzsprout episode, the audio episode, and a link to the YouTube. So I can send all that to the guest in one email. So that's a lot of steps, but it takes me about 2 hours per episode. So today I was working on it because I had 6 episodes to do in a bunch. I hadn't done it in a couple of weeks. And you just work through the process. And then I have a process for creating my cover art for each show. Each show has its own cover art because it's on YouTube. It needs a different picture. So I take a picture of the guest, I upload it to Midjourney, I generate a cartoon based on them. And that way it catches the eye. It's not an original picture. And that allows it to be a little bit different because most guests just want you to use the same picture they use everywhere. I'm like, that's boring. That won't let me stand out. And I do get some people who complain about it. I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. How many of the shows have you been in have they shown you the thumbnail besides mine? Oh, you never look. So you don't actually care. You only, and it's a certain type of guest that will push back on me. I go, listen. And they go, I want you to use this picture of me. I go, yeah, I did it. I have a specific aesthetic, a specific cartoon style. It's not supposed to actually look like you. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be close. It's supposed to just be a little bit different. And I design it in a way that grabs the eye, which is more important to me than it looks exactly like the person. It doesn't need to look exactly like me. And you'll see when you see your image, it looks close to you, but it's not perfect. For something, I had to do a lot of iterations for your image today to get one that I thought was looking pretty cool and enough like a cartoon that you could tell it wasn't just a fake photograph.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the process. And knowing that 1 out of 10 guests or 1 out of 20 will push back on the image. And it's like, well, it is what it is.
All right. We've got Edward Brawer on the podcast today. Welcome. And Edward, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, but also about your cool company?
Hey, Chris. Pleasure to be here. So, I'm the CEO of podcast.ai, and we automate podcasting. So right now we automate everything that you need in terms of post-production, distribution, and promotion for your podcast.
So as I shared with you before we started recording, on Monday, we've kind of hobbled together our own version of it through automations and Zapier and APIs and very complicated stuff. And it took us about 90 days. And to explain it to the audience, it took me about 45 minutes. Now, how long does it take for somebody to do almost the same thing we're doing with your tool?
Well, we can explain podcast AI in 45 seconds, and we can set it up in less than 90 minutes.
That's amazing. So this is the promise of AI, generative AI, right? It's like, it's supposed to make things easier and faster and all that kind of stuff. And yes, we've done it internally, but what you're doing here is off the shelf. Somebody can, so where does it start? We talk about podcasting as a popular topic on using AI at work because AI contributes to it a lot, right? So for somebody who, let's start with somebody who's maybe hasn't started one yet because of the concerns about technological impediments or the lift required to get all these things done. Can you kind of walk us through what that process looks like for a podcaster using podcast.ai.com?
Yeah, you just open an account on podcast.ai.com, pick a plan, create a show, create yourself as an AI host. That basically means you're creating a profile of yourself. You're uploading a 3-minute recording of your voice, and it now knows your voice. So it can actually produce audio in your voice, which is pretty amazing. And then you assign that host to your show. You set the metadata for your show. You give a description, a title. You set some cover art for your show. So you just draw something in Canva or Photoshop and set that as the show cover. And now you're ready to upload your first episode. And your first episode is really just, record a Zoom call, record in QuickTime a monologue, maybe introduction, do a Google Meet, record that. Tons of ways to actually record your first podcast. You don't need the production quality to be super high. Joe Rogan is probably the top podcaster. Well, guess what? If you look at his first 100 episodes, the production quality is not super, super high, right? So people will forgive you if you start without the highest production quality. So you just do a Zoom recording, you and your friends, you and a lead, you and somebody interesting in your market. Just record that. And we have something called an episode studio. You can upload your episode. You can, if you want to create an intro and outro, you can do that. That's totally optional. The episode studio will affix that to the recording on both sides. It'll automatically find something that's a good cold open and sort of put that in front of your intro. And then it'll give you a fully rendered video. But that's an optional step. You can really just go straight with your recording, upload your recording or your finished episode to Podcast AI. That's your first episode. You hit generate. It'll do your description. It'll do your chapters, your key points, your title. It'll do all of that stuff. We call that post-production. That's all the information on your feed that goes out to Apple and Spotify. At that point, Podcast AI will generate an entire website for your podcast with all the transcripts and everything just completely automatically. Yeah. And so, we prototyped blog to podcast. So we found people that do blogs pretty consistently. Wow. We made it so it just scans their blog as part of the docket. Every Monday it generates an episode. It ad-libs an intro, ad-libs a conclusion, ad-libs all the posts they've done into content and chapters. And it has intro music, outro music. It's fantastic.
So when is that going to be released?
So we have that prototyped with customers. If anybody's interested in using it for their blog, we can do that right now. Just get in touch.
Wow.
And our first customer who started deploying it, once we finished setting it up, he asked, "Okay, so what do I have to do now?" Right? And I said, "Nothing. Just keep blogging. Right? This thing's on autopilot."
I want to introduce our guest. Chris, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're up to in the AI space?
Yeah, so I've spent my career as a software engineer. Worked at places like General Instrument, Motorola, in the C-band satellite industry, Hewlett Packard with their printer projects, Sharp Healthcare, which is a large healthcare organization here in San Diego, Mitchell International, and TransCore. And now I'm in the casino gaming industry as an IT manager. And about a year ago, when all this AI stuff started happening, I put my nose to the grindstone and started basically just spending time in the morning every day learning this stuff.
Let's talk about that learning curve for you. You got a computer science background. You've been involved in technology for your entire career. There may be people listening that would say, of course it was, of course you're the person on the other end of this. Of course this was easy for you. But did your computer science background come into compressing that learning curve at all when it came to generative AI?
Not initially. I was hiring ghostwriters to write blog posts, and I'm an Amazon seller on the side, so I basically was hiring people to write content for me. And when the generative AI stuff, I started with Jasper, and when the generative AI stuff came along, I started using it for that and realized that I could basically do that instead of hiring people. I was paying quite a bit of money, like $75 per blog post, just to get traffic to my e-com site. Mm-hmm. And that's basically how I started using it. And then once I discovered automations and the powerful combination with the generative AI and automations, I started playing with some of the no-code solutions to do some prompt chaining and some automatic report generation with those solutions.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was very excited about talking about here. Is what initially got me really interested was most people who will be using generative AI on a day-to-day basis don't have a technology background. So most of the time when we're doing these interviews, we're not really exploring what happens if you get really sophisticated with generative AI, with APIs and the assistants and stuff like that we talked about on our other call that wasn't recorded. So I definitely want to pull on those threads. But the reason that Chris and I got connected, just so everybody knows the context, was at the parent company of this podcast is chiefaiofficer.com. And we have had a manuscript that was 95% done on a book about the role of the chief AI officer. It's been done for almost 6 months. And it was just one of those things that we couldn't get over the finish line. There was always something in the way. And Chris and I got connected through the AI space, and he was sharing the project that he's about to tell us about. And needless to say, I was very intrigued. And as a result of Chris coming on the scene, the Chief AI Officer book is a masterpiece and was actually published on Amazon as of last night, thanks to Chris. So, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that conversation was that you and I had?
So basically, you told me about your Chief AI Officer program, and I was really interested in the program and enrolled in the program and started going through it and kind of wanted to reciprocate for the work that you were doing with that, and offered to write your book with my product, ghostwritr.ai. That's ghostwriter without the E. And asked you about that and basically got some information from your about your courses and about your background. And with that night, pretty much I was able to write the book with my automation system. And basically we ended up with a book. We had the first draft the next day, and then your people went through it and fixed it, and you guys made it your own, and we were able to publish it last night.
So the process for somebody, because it's a self-serve, right? Like I could go in there and if I wanted to do book number 2, you wouldn't need to be involved, right? For the creation part. So, so that somebody can kind of understand, because if I'm driving right now and I'm listening to this and somebody's talking about writing a book with AI, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that I'm giving it maybe a little prompt, but what I'm getting out the back end is synthetic. It's inauthentic. It's just like some computer generated, algo generated series of words that happen to make sense. But that's not the output that's happening if you do it the way that you're doing it. So I want people to understand that it's not just, hey, AI, write me a book. That the human is involved in this process. The human is directing the output. So for the human who's interested in doing this, who's listening to this, what does that experience like? What is quote unquote writing a book with AI using Ghostwriter? What does that look like?
Basically, in ghostwritr.ai, basically you come up with a book title. So you're filling out a form. It's a pretty simple 5-part form where you describe the book. So you have the book title, the book type, and right now I'm doing just authority nonfiction. So it's monetize your expertise by writing a book, and then 10 chapters max. So you can choose the number of chapters up to 10. And then you fill in the book description. And then there's a little AI chat bot that's on the form that if you don't know you can't come up with a book description, you basically do some ideation with that little chat bot. So it'll write the description for you, and you just cut and paste that into the book description field. And then you want to supply it with a book outline, and that little chat bot will help you write that as well. And then additional context, which is your notes. So if you have a personal story or you have specialized background, you put that in there.
How much context can I put in for that? Because if, I don't know, let's say I've been doing public speaking and had transcripts and stuff like that. How much could I feed it?
So right now it's 50,000 characters.
Okay.
And that's kind of the max amount that I can put in without breaking it, without making the prompts too long.
Yeah.
And then you can upload. The next step is you can choose your tone and style. So you can upload a text file that has your writing sample in there, and it's your author background. So you'd have an author bio, and the little chat bot will help you create an author bio. So it can either analyze your tone and style from your writing. You can specify a tone and style. So you select from option boxes, basically what your tone and style is, or you can emulate an author. So like if I want to write like Tony Robbins, I just basically punch in Tony Robbins in there. And then the next step, the final step, is defining your audience. So, and the chat bot will help you identify your audience. So it's like if you're in your instance, it would be like professional or business, right? For the niche. And then the final step, it would be a reading level. So you can specify, if you want it.
Yeah.
If you don't want it to get too technical, you can say write at a 5th grade reading level, which is a pretty safe reading level to make it conversational. And that's pretty much it. And then once you have all those things filled out, you basically hit the go button, and it launches my automation, and the automation will generate an outline from the outline that you provided, and it'll walk through that outline and write each chapter sequentially. So it's keeping track of the context of the book as it's writing it.
So it's got memory a bit. Yeah.
Right.
As I mentioned, our guest today is Curt Maly, an old friend, a brilliant marketer, and owner of Black Box Social Media. So, you mentioned one thing in particular, and that's a pretty common impediment for a lot of people. The synthetic feeling of the output. They're looking to create some content, or they're looking for some sort of, maybe turn it into a social post or whatever. But the output, especially if you're used to working with the models, you're like, they didn't write that. GPT wrote that, right? So this training them to be able to write in your voice is something like, that's a code that I've been looking to crack for a hot minute.
Oh,
and you're
let's talk about it.
Okay, good. With this video transcript, I'm going to ask you in particular, is it like a video of you doing a sales presentation? Is it a video of you kind of just like riffing with somebody? What's giving you the best result?
Sir, we have a system and a program that we have created that is really revolutionizing our business, and it's revolutionizing lots of other businesses that we're working with right now. It's kind of like you've seen Alex Hormozi absolutely blow up with these short form videos. So I'll just give you the process right here. We'll talk about it. And if you want me to dive in deeper, that I can, and I'll train this whole model. So here's what happens. We either show people how to do this, we do it with you, or we have a done for you service. I'm not plugging my service. I want to show you the opportunity.
I'm going to want you to plug your service in a minute.
That's great. So what we do is we do an interview like this with a client of ours, and we'll do it for 45 minutes to an hour about every 3 weeks. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to ask AI. So, for instance, let's say, Dr. Daigle, I am interviewing you. And if I am interviewing you, I want to ask you 25 questions the AI is going to come up with. So I want to do a little bit of research on you, your topic, your audience. I want to ask some really good, 25 questions. Now, I'm going to remove my voice from the 25 questions. So after an hour-long interview, it's just going to be you. I'm going to go ahead and I have this whole transcript of just you, and it's just you in the video. So if someone watched this raw video, it's going to look kind of weird because it looks like you're just talking to yourself, right? I like using Descript specifically. I'm going to go ahead and take the interview, upload it. I'm going to go ahead and remove Curt Maly from the interview. Now it's just going to have Chris Daigle in the interview, and that's it. Now, I can hit a button in Descript to take out the ums and the ahs and the pauses and clean up the audio. 4 buttons, 2 minutes, done. Now I have all this done, and I have this transcript, because when you're inside of Descript, if you're not familiar with it, there's a whole transcript. You edit by the transcript, which makes it really easy to edit. Now, essentially what we're going to do is we have this video and we have this long form post. So my next goal is, before I start editing any of the videos, actually, let me take this back. I'm going to go ahead and render the video. So I'm going to now download the video. So I have to download the video of you just talking directly into the camera. I'm going to give you 4 websites that we are building businesses on and other companies are building huge brands on. I take this video and I upload it to Opus Clips, number 1.
Yep.
Once it goes to Opus Clips is going to automatically make these edits, just like Alex Hormozi. Short form, the AI is going to look for hook, angles. Is this a popular common topic? It's going to rank them from like 1 to 20, which the best short is. It's just not going to automatically cut a minute. It is finding highly useful information because of the transcript. So now the video's edited inside of Opus Clips. We use Get Munch, which really focuses over on YouTube videos. This is going to create YouTube, TikTok, stuff like that. The third thing that we're going to use is something called clap.app, K-L-A-P app, K-L-A-P video app. And then the next one is video.io, VIDYO.io. So if you take this one file and you upload it to all 4 of those sites, Chris Daigle, a 45-minute interview can turn into over 200 different raw clips. They have captions on them. They don't really have any social media posts yet, but I'm going to go ahead and get to that. But they have captions on them. But here's the rub. We can do this all in an hour. We can record the video, put it all into AI. In an hour, everything's done. So what we do is let's just say, if we boil that 200 videos down to 100 videos, right? We just take 50 of them, take the crap one, just throw it. We're not even worried about editing, throw those away. Now you have 100 videos, like just from this interview right here. Mr. Daigle, 100 interviews would allow you to post 3 times a day for the entire month with just one interview. Hormozi was posting 3 times a day when he blew up his brand, but he was spending $88,000 a month to get the content out there. So here's what happens in the second step. In the second step, we now have all this content. So what we do is we build a GPT for the clients, and I'm going to tell you how to do it right here. And it's a 3-part thing. Part 1, we're going to do research on the client's avatar. Who is your perfect avatar? We were going to figure out what are the wants, what are the needs, what are the desires, what are the trigger points, what are the things that they want to know about. Here's our perfect type of avatar. Now, we don't name this avatar Wednesday or Tom. We don't have 5 different avatars. It is, here's the perfect market that we're looking for. Bucket number 1. So that is going to be put in a notepad, and we're going to upload that notepad of my perfect avatar into our chat GPT that we're going to create. So I'm just going to make this up. I'm going to create a GPT that is the Chris Daigle. Go ahead.
Where are you developing? Are you using AI tools to develop the avatar, or is that from the interview with the client asking them?
That's a really great question. Well, again, there's 3 buckets that we have for this. They can do it themselves, done with you, or done for you. Done for you, we'll ask the client. Do it yourself. You just fill in 15 questions, put it into the AI. And Mr. Daigle, I'm going to give you another tip here. We take these questions and answer them to build a customer persona. Then we go to Poe and we ask 5 different AIs to come up with all of the best attributes to this perfect avatar, which gives me this huge list. Then I go to Claude and say, hey, Claude, condense this down to the best of the best. Mr. Daigle, we have emotional trigger points. We have why people buy. There are so many things that the AI has figured out that, again, I couldn't do this a year ago. That's file number 1 that we will upload as a resource into the GPT. Here's my perfect avatar. The second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take that interview that we just had that's about 45 minutes of just you talking. I'm going to take the entire transcript and I'm going to go ahead and put this into a notepad for a resource. But essentially what I'm going to say is, this is the persona and the speaking tone of Chris Daigle. Please analyze this transcript to write the following output in the speaker's voice, tone, written under a 5th grade level, but uses the same vocabulary as the speaker, Chris Daigle, in this video. That right there, because it was a half an hour interview, this is in your tone. So that right there is the second file. Now, number 3, as the third file, what's your offer? You're a consultant, you interview, whatever that is, what is your offer? And we're going to add that as the third file. That's the third bucket that we're going to upload in the GPT. Okay? So now we have who's the perfect customer, who's our tone, and what our offer is. Now what's going to happen is every time that there is a short that is made, so let's say we go into Opus Clips. In Opus Clips, the first short is going to say, hey, we chose this short. It's going to tell you why. It's the best one out of all the edits they did. They're going to go from best to worst, but they're going to say the opening hook was good. This is really relevant. Here's a framework that works really well. And then below that, they're going to give you the transcript of the short form video. So what we do is in your GPT that we just made, we take that transcript of that short form video, and we have actually, there's one other button we put in the GPT. We say, create for me from this transcript, create for me 3 Facebook headlines, 3 Instagram headlines, 3 TikTok headlines, 3 Twitter headlines, 3 LinkedIn headlines. Then give me 4 hashtag suggestions, because really we're only using 4 hashtags in all of our posts, for each one of the platforms that ties into this content. Okay, so actually this is actually another notepad, I should say, for really the 4th bucket that we upload that says, hey, for your output, you're going to create social media posts in Chris Daigle's tone, with this customer in mind, with this offer in mind, and they're going to produce all the headlines, the hashtags, and this is most important. They're going to give me, the AI is going to give me 5 posts to choose from that are written between 1,750 and 2,200 characters in your tone of voice below a 5th grade reading level. Interject fun facts when possible. So, step number 1, we record the interview. Step number 2, I put it into Descript, remove all the background noise, everything else. I have that transcript. Step 3, I'm going to build that GPT. Takes me just a couple of minutes, maybe a half an hour. Step 4, I'm going to take that file and put it into the 4 different AI tools to cut up all this content. Step 5, I'm going to take all the transcripts from each one of these short form videos, paste it in the GPT. It'll instantly give me all these headlines, all the descriptions. Long form posts get shared more, viewed more, and read more. Now we have the post made, but Mr. Daigle, here's the final part. We got a ton of videos. We now have a ton of social media post options to choose from. We still have to look through the options and post them. I use repurpose.io. Repurpose.io, every time that we have a short that's edited, we put it inside of this Google Drive folder. The Google Drive folder goes to repurpose.io and syncs with all of our social media sites, all of our business sites, all of our personal pages. The only thing it cannot publish to is my personal Facebook page. Instagram, personal, business, LinkedIn, everything. So now, Mr. Daigle, I have 100 videos from one interview. I have all these social media posts written for the individual channels. I just have to schedule it out on repurpose.io. So if you're doing regular interviews like this, Hormozi would post 3 times a day to blow up his brand and would spend $80,000 a month to do it. For under $200 a month, I just showed you how to produce double the content that he did to put into Reels. And I'll put this last thing to wrap it up. The Reels are getting seen now more than anything else out there. Let me give you a perfect example. Last year, Hootsuite did a study and found that when you post organically to Facebook, a long form written post or a video, 1 to 2% of your audience will see it. So easy numbers, 100 people follow you, 1 or 2 people see your message. Reels, shorts, these short form videos that are a minute long that I just talked about, all of the platforms have the same type of algorithm, but it's like Spotify. They will find people who like your content. So this short form content, this is how Hormozi blew it up, can be seen by 30, 40, 50% of an audience that isn't even attached to you. You can start a brand new channel, have no followers or nothing, crank out a bunch of these 1-minute videos using AI. All of a sudden you have, again, Hormozi would spend $80,000 a month on content. You have the same strategy for under $200 a month, and it's going to take you a couple hours a week to pull off to look through this stuff. But again, this is $88,000 or $80,000 a month strategy that you can literally do for $200.
That's pretty incredible. We have a pretty robust content production and distribution, but this is I'm going to have my team listen to this as soon as this is off the press. I'm excited to invite Jesse Hughes from Leonardo AI to the podcast today, and we're going to talk about something that's been on my mind for a very long time. Jesse, before we get started, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
For sure. Hey, Chris, my name is Jesse Hughes. I'm the Senior Creative Technologist at Leonardo AI. I'm also very lucky to be an artist in residence there. So I have, a 10-year career in the creative industries, been working across that space of emerging technology and how that kind of intersects with like the arts and the creative industries for a long time. And then last year, I think as we're all aware, generative AI really, really had its moment. It raised a lot of attention. And it was this kind of incredible moment as a creative where I went, oh my gosh, my practice has now just expanded tenfold. And I just couldn't stop exploring how my practice could now just expand in every vertical that I hadn't even considered before. And so that was what kind of drew me to Leonardo in the first place. So for those who don't know, Leonardo AI is an incredible generative AI creative toolkit for content creation. What I would say the reason I really enjoyed Leo was it was everything all in one place. Back when I was, learning and trying all these different things, you would have to go to one platform to like make an image, and another platform to upscale the image and make it like high quality. And then you have to go to another platform to add motion. You have to go to another platform. So it was just, it was my subscriptions, guys. I'm paying for Netflix, paying for Spotify. Like I can't have all these subscriptions. And so that's kind of where I ended up finding Leonardo. And the platform has grown just so much of a community within such a short time period. So Leo has the 3rd largest Discord community in the world. So that's massive. A group of people who are all here to be like training and learning off each other. And in 18 months, we have grown to have over 15 million users. Like that is
what?
That is incredible, right?
It's actually congratulations.
Thank you. I think we're currently Australia's fastest growing SaaS, which is absolutely insane.
Wow. Honestly, it's been the easiest of the tools that we've used. So that was pretty refreshing as well. So you mentioned a couple things. The growth has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's just what you said. It's easy. Like it's easy. Like the accessibility is truly there by design. Like the team was and it's something that we're actually currently working on making it even easier, because we are at this kind of like crossroad between, do you give people like complete creative control, which is our end goal? It's one of our like pillar values at Leo is creative control. So by that, I mean the ability to literally like go in and edit like specific, in the same way like you have, high-end creative software, like, I don't know, whatever, Photoshop or whatever, like detailed, like we have the capabilities of the tools with that within Leo. But then we also want to cater for the people who are coming in for the first time. This is their first time doing image gen. How do we make that like a seamless experience? And so we're currently working on, some really exciting things, which are launching quite soon, on how we can be even easier. But I think there was probably that. And then the other element of the images are fantastic. And that is the thing. It's just like you said with your experience with DALL-E, like we can't, Gen AI will not break through to the mainstream if the images are subpar. And I think that is something that's very important, is that I use the word indiscernible when I give my lectures. And it's this idea of like, AI works in a commercial context if the imagery feels indiscernible, as in an audience isn't looking at that and saying, oh, that's an AI. And the other thing is, like, audiences are incredibly savvy. They're also incredibly on edge about trying to like identify these kind of things. So it's a sense of like, well, what instance are you using it in? Like, what example is this, like, use case is this being used in? Is it appropriate? Like where can you do multi-layered stuff almost? Like, if like what is the use case and how do you want to build upon that, is what I think is really relevant. Like I have a friend she's a founder. She's building her business, and she wanted this beautiful like stock photography. They were going to charge $500 per photograph for her. Right?
It's ridiculous.
And how in the world, like, honestly, can a startup or a founder or the general public, like, that is not an affordable. It's just not affordable. And beyond that, it's not photography that is the specific stuff that she wants for her brand.
She had to
like,
settle.
And it was a sense of like, well, now we have the capability where we can, define the models, define the scene, define the color tone, define the grade, like the new tools that we're rolling out. We even have the ability for like style. So if she has, say, a brand guideline of what her photography style is, we can, go in and make sure that all of our images reflect that same style, which is a really, really helpful commercial tool for people who are trying to build their own stuff.
What would be first steps for somebody that was going to be trying it out this afternoon after this podcast episode?
Yeah, cool. So I do it the way I teach in university. So I would start with real-time canvas, or like, so Leonardo, there's like a few, like real-time canvas is just a good way of being like, I'm going to have a doodle and have that instant kind of like adrenaline hit of being like, oh my God, it's making what I want. And so like start with your little sketch, do something silly, and then play with the different models. So like the ray trace, the illustration, the sketch, like just so you get an idea of when the system knows what it is that you want, it will give you what you want. And if you're getting not very good images, it's because you're probably not telling it the right things, or you're not using it correctly. Like the results are phenomenal when it works, when you can articulate things correctly. So I would say probably start there, and then going into the image generation area. Like image generation is where is like our bread and butter. I mean, we also do like motion. I haven't got into all our other features because there's a zillion, but we're able to do motion as well. But let's just keep it simple for today. So you would type in a prompt, and I think when you get into prompt writing, using AI to write prompts is really helpful. It's a feature that we're going to be rolling out publicly, I think, soon. I am obsessed with it, so I think it might only be available to me right now. But this improved prompt, so I will write like a simple dodgy prompt. I don't know, whatever, like
in Leonardo.
In Leonardo. So directly into the prompt bar. So like a woman.
It's got a prompt improver that's coming.
Yeah, Chris.
Very cool.
Game changer. I will write maybe like 10 words that aren't very good. Oh, here we go. Okay, type of prompt. A woman hiker on a mountainside photography. I don't know. This is my excellent morning brain. And and all of a sudden, if I press improve my prompt, I'm going to get this. So it goes from a woman hiker on a mountainside photo to A resilient, adventurous woman stands proudly on a rugged mountainside, her gaze fixed at the vast horizon ahead. The photo captures her mid-height with windswept hair and a determined expression. This stunning photograph showcases the beauty of nature and the spirit of exploration. The vibrant colors and sharp details bring the scene to life, making it a truly captivating image that conveys a sense of freedom and awe.
Much better picture, I'm sure.
I think that's a bit more detailed than a woman stands on a mountain.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to Using AI at Work. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how to use AI at work. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Chief AI Officer, for empowering businesses with AI education and training. Visit their website for a free AI readiness assessment and AI strategy guide to help you get started using AI at work. That's www.chiefaiofficer.com. Special thanks to our producer, Evan DeSaulnier, for making this episode possible. Follow us on Twitter at the handle Using AI at Work, and visit www.usingaiatwork.com for free resources to help you harness AI in your role.